If you watched our Best of 2020 video, you learned something about me, and that is, of all the products we cover on this channel, soundbars are actually my favorite. It's true. They are. I love them. And you also learned that our soundbar of the year 2020 was the Sennheiser AMBEO. But after that video, a number of you reached out to us and asked, what was our runner-up? Well, we're going to answer that question and more. So sit back, relax, hit that like button, and subscribe if you are not already, which about half of you watching this are not subscribers. So go ahead, clickety-click, subscribe, because we are finally getting the opportunity to review the Samsung Q950T Dolby Atmos soundbar. The Q950T is Samsung's flagship soundbar for 2020. It is a true 9.1.4 Dolby Atmos soundbar system, as both the bar and the rear speakers have upward firing drivers, and no home theater is complete without a subwoofer, and the 950T comes with a wireless one. Now, obviously, this soundbar system can play back Dolby Atmos as well as DTS:X soundtracks thanks to its eARC connectivity. And in terms of connectivity, you can also connect to compatible TVs via Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. Now, it does have 2 HDMI inputs and 1 HDMI output. Samsung also includes some legacy connection options in the form of an optical input as well. And you can control the 950 either via the included remote, the Samsung's SmartThings app, or via your lovely voice, because it is Amazon Alexa enabled. Straight away, the Q950T looks like a premium audio product. It's not quite as long as LG's soundbars, but it is nowhere near as beefy as the Sennheiser AMBEO. Instead, it falls somewhere right about the middle. And it's clad in all black fabric, which does dress it up quite a bit, though considering what a big deal Samsung makes of this fabric, I kind of expected it to be available in different colors. Because Samsung's such a design-forward company, having different finish options would make the Q950T, well, competitive with the likes of, say, Bang & Olufsen. So I do consider the all-black fabric option to be sort of a missed opportunity. Not to mention, it's just really difficult to keep clean if you have pets. But as far as all-black soundbars go, the Q950T is one of the better-looking ones. The subwoofer, on the other hand, I don't care for. It sounds fine, and we're going to go over it in just a moment. It's just looks-wise, it seems like a carryover from about 2015. Christy doesn't mind it, but honestly, I'm not a big fan of the plastic and fabric look, and I think it drags the entire appearance of the 950 system down. Thankfully, the surrounds look very nice, if not eerily similar to the surrounds we have on our LG system. Only Samsung has decided to wrap those in fabric as well, as opposed to go with an all-plastic design like you're going to find on the LG. Before we get into setup and control, you know that we like to run down the various products that we use to test what we're reviewing. And this soundbar got installed in both our small spaces set as well as out here in our main room, and that meant that it got used with 3 different televisions: the Samsung Q70T, the Sony X950H, and of course our 8K LG NanoCell that you see behind me. For television and movies, we relied on the Google Chromecast with Google TV streaming device, and for you gamers out there, I even gave Red Dead Redemption 2 another shot on my PS4, and I gotta tell you, I still don't like it. But links to all of these products, as well as others, are always, like you know, found down below. Setting up the Q950T for the first time is actually pretty straightforward. There's just 2 things that I want to make you aware of, and both of them have to do with the surround sound speakers. First, the power cord for the surround speakers plugs into the bottom of the speaker itself. Now, this isn't a big deal, as Samsung does give you the appropriate cables to do this, but they're not the longest. And because we don't always have power outlets where we may want them, you're either going to have to use an extension cord, or you may be shopping for a third-party cable that will stretch to your nearest outlet, like I did. Just know that if you're going to go with a third-party cable, you need to make sure that the end is a 90-degree end and in a figure-8 style. Do that, you should be fine, but understand that some third-party cords may not sit completely flush with the bottom of the speaker. And the second note, once you plug in the surround sound speakers, if they don't automatically sync with the main bar, know that there is a small, well-labeled button on the bottom of the bar itself. You push that, the surrounds should sync with the rest of the system. Now, a lot of times this does happen automatically, but if it doesn't, small button, bottom of the bar, you're going to be in business. And the good news is that once the surrounds sync with the system, you shouldn't experience any dropouts, because in our testing, we actually didn't encounter any, not one. Control of the Q950T can be handled a number of ways. The most common are going to be using the included remote control, which is pretty basic but robust enough to get the job done, especially if you're already a Samsung user. You'll probably be able to use your existing television's remote, at least for volume up and down, because the Q950T has control over HDMI. And the third way is the Samsung SmartThings app. Now, I think the app is pretty good, and it's arguably the best way to customize the 950T to your liking, though admittedly, the 950T is not the most customizable soundbar on the market right now. Yes, there are tone controls, there's things like subwoofer level, things like that. If you want to go beyond that, if you want to have access to, say, an EQ, the only way to do that is through the standard sound profile using the app. And of course, if you are an Alexa power user, you can control the soundbar with your voice via Alexa. Speaking of sound profiles, there are 4: standard, surround, game, and adaptive. Standard is how it sounds. It's just the standard profile, and it is my least favorite of the 4, as I find it way too directional sounding. Now, for whatever reason, if you're in standard mode, you have access to higher EQ functionality, and Samsung gives you that functionality at the expense of spaciousness. So I just don't recommend standard. I like surround. It's my second favorite option, as it does a really good job, especially when you're using the surround speakers, at approximating a discrete home theater system. Now, game feels to me a lot like a variation of surround, though there is a little bit more directional emphasis to its sound, which for some games might be a very good thing. Adaptive sound is the Q950T's secret sauce, and my favorite profile by a country mile. It tailors the sound of the soundbar to whatever the content is that you're watching and listening to, but unlike other smart sound features found on, well, other soundbars, the Samsung adaptive sound actually manages to sound good. Now, for music, I did prefer surround, as I felt that surround it came across a little bit more like a traditional 2-channel sound, whereas adaptive got to be just a little bit too spacious. But for everything else other than 2-channel music, adaptive sound is where it's at. Now, when presented with a Dolby ATMOS signal, the Q950T sort of takes back control in terms of customization, which is fine. Dolby Atmos soundtracks sounded absolutely fantastic, and the Q950T came dangerously close to matching the standard set by our soundbar of the year, the Sennheiser AMBEO. And that was kind of surprising, because for a soundbar that uses smaller drivers, or just smaller in general, the 950T got within spitting distance, and I especially was impressed by its mid-range and mid-bass weight, as I just wasn't really expecting that from the Q950T. And dynamically, the Q950T is fantastic. It has a lot of get up and go, and you can especially feel this in the opening moments of films like Six Underground or the climactic battle sequence of 1917, though at extremely high volumes with these types of intensive action sequences, I could detect the subtlest sense of a limiter. The limiter appears to keep the drivers from distorting or damaging themselves at incredibly high volumes, and limiters are common inside a lot of electronics, especially soundbars, at least the soundbars that we have tested. Though the 950 does seem to play a lot louder before the limiter kicks in, and the roll-off when it does kick in is pretty pleasing, unlike the kind of harsh stop that you get with our LG. Though, admittedly, you can sort of defeat the limiter on the LG, but you can't on the Q950T. Aside from some very minor dynamic compression, the sound of the Q950T with Dolby Atmos soundtracks is just epic. This soundbar system sounds a lot like a traditional home theater speaker system than it does a soundbar. And the sense of spaciousness that you get laterally is just room defying. Not to mention, the overhead cues from those ATMOS modules are completely discernible and welcomed. With respect to dialogue, the dialogue clarity, that intelligibility out of the Q950T is good, though admittedly it's not quite as forward or pronounced as, say, our LG or the AMBEO. So if you're looking for a very balanced, linear sort of sound, I would suggest you do look at the Samsung. But if you're suffering from a little bit of hearing loss or like your dialogue just out in front just a little bit more, then I think you're going to find the LG and AMBEO more to your liking, though you can pretty much tailor the AMBEO to be however you want, so it can go either way. And it's not just Dolby Atmos soundtracks that impressed me the most. Both Dolby Digital and Dolby True HD soundtracks sounded great, both in surround and adaptive sound modes. And the thing I just kept coming back to with the Samsung was just how right it sounded, at least in our room. Sure, I experimented with the bass and treble controls as well as subwoofer level, but I just kept coming back to, well, Samsung's default settings. So if you are in the market for a sort of plug-and-play soundbar, I think you're going to find the Samsung Q50T in its adaptive sound mode to be a really good fit. And for music, the Q950T did a great job, though I did prefer listening to music in its surround sound mode. Even with or without the surround sound speakers, surround mode just did a better job at approximating that more traditional two-channel stereo-like performance. Now, the main bar doesn't orally disappear quite in the same way the Sennheiser AMBEO can, but it gets very close. What impressed me was that the soundstage when listening to music in surround mode just extended way, way far back and had a real kind of arc-like shape to it. And this was on full display when listening to music from, say, Go Go Penguins and their latest album. And it also has surprising vertical dispersion as well. And this lends a bit of height to both instruments and performers rather than relegating them all to the sort of linear plane. Bass is very good. I may not like the styling of the subwoofer, but I cannot fault its performance down low. It hits these notes with some real authority, though admittedly at loud volumes and at the extremes, the bass can be just a little bit one note. But overall, the sub is just very, very punchy and dynamic. And one of the more impressive soundbar subs that I have encountered in recent memory. Maybe it's not as good as the 10-inch subwoofer that comes with the Klipsch Cinema 600, but it's definitely a close second. Mid-range again is very nice, very natural and organic feeling for a soundbar. If you go back and watch our JBL Bar 9.1 review, I raved about that particular speaker's mid-range, and the Q950T is very reminiscent of that. Now the high frequencies are pristine, very detailed and clean. They're definitely enhanced by the use of DSP, but this isn't necessarily a bad thing. They're not the most airy or extended in terms of decay, but they are never fatiguing, even at high volume, so I'll take that trade-off. Circling back to how the 950T works with other televisions, when connecting to another Samsung TV, the convenience factor is unmatched. There really isn't much that you have to do by way of setup other than just turn both your TV and the soundbar on, and I just thought that that was amazing. I loved the option of not having to use an HDMI cable in order to enjoy movies and music. And what was even better was that through a wireless connection, I experienced absolutely no lag. Now, connecting the Q950T to the Sony X950H was a different story. That wasn't the best pairing. In fact, there were communication errors all over the place, and oftentimes I would not be able to control the soundbar via the Sony remote, and it just got to be, well, frustrating. The LG fared way better and was on par with the Samsung in terms of functionality, though I will admit that you're probably going to want to rely on an HDMI connection between any TV not named Samsung. In terms of comparable products, like I said earlier in this review, the Q950T gets within spitting distance of our reference AMBEO. What I think hurts the 950T is its lack of customization, though I will admit I can see its set it and forget it nature to be very popular with a wide range of consumers. Not to mention its smaller size and finish is probably going to integrate into more living spaces than, say, the AMBEO. Now, compared to the LG soundbar, the LG is a little bit more forward, a little bit more pronounced in the mid-range and treble, though, unlike the Samsung, you have a little bit more customization of the LG. So you can sort of get around this forwardness if you want. Plus, you can also somewhat, if not completely, disable the LG's limiter, unlike the Samsung, which opens things up quite a bit dynamically. That said, the LG's subwoofer simply isn't as good as the Samsung's, and when it comes to fit and finish and build quality, I think the Samsung is better. So if you're in the market for a soundbar system around the LG or Samsung's price, they're very evenly matched, but for me, I would give the nod to the Samsung. Now, compared to the JBL Bar 9, the two soundbars, the Q950T and the Bar 9, have very similar traits, but I'm going to give the nod to the Samsung, even though its surround sound speakers aren't truly wireless. I just think that it's the better buy overall. But let's say that you don't need a 9.1.4 soundbar, or maybe you're on a little bit more of a tighter budget. How does the Q950T compare to, say, the Klipsch Cinema 600? Well, this is very interesting because just in terms of sound, I actually think the Cinema 600 is very good, very similar in many respects to the Q950T. Also, I think the Klipsch has the better subwoofer. It's just, well, it's bigger, it's more musical and more textural, which I like. Though it can't quite compete with, say, the Samsung's outright just grunt. But again, if you are on a budget and maybe you don't need a big full-blown ATMOS system, the Klipsch is a great budget option that can totally hang with the Samsung. And we're just gonna have to wait and see how the larger, more expensive Dolby Atmos Klipsch soundbars fare against the Q950T. And as for how the Q950T compares to the likes of, say, Vizio and Sonos, I don't know, as I haven't heard either of those soundbars yet. I do think that we're getting a Vizio here very soon, so be sure to subscribe and check back for that. But when it comes to the Sonos Arc, I wouldn't hold your breath. We've been asking for that soundbar for almost a year, and they keep turning us down, so who knows? So in the end, the Q950T 9.4.1 Dolby Atmos soundbar from Samsung is just fantastic. I know I've probably said this numerous times throughout this review, but it does. It gets so close to matching the performance of the far more expensive Sennheiser AMBEO. It does. It does. So if you are in the market for a soundbar solution that hovers around, say, the $1,500 mark, depending on where you shop, I think your list can start and stop with the Samsung Q950T soundbar. So that's it. That is our review of the Samsung Q950T Dolby Atmos enabled soundbar. What do you guys think? What did you think? What did you think?
I thought it was really good. I mean, I think it's a really good soundbar. Is it better than the AMBEO? No.
Why do you say that? What is it about the AMBEO specifically now?
Well, for one thing, I actually prefer not having to rely on rear speakers. It is a bit of a pain in the ass to have to set that up, and from a design standpoint, like a decor standpoint, in terms of our living space, I would prefer not to have speakers either behind or, at an angle towards the couch, or alternatively mounted on the wall. It's just aesthetically, I don't like that.
You don't want to be surrounded by speakers.
No, I really don't. And honestly, there were times where the rears with the Samsung, it was a little intense for me.
Okay.
But they worked really well, and I'm sure there'd be somebody would be really into that. But in terms of, I can get better sound out of the AMBEO without the requirement of the rears, I'm going to go with that. Yeah, it's more expensive, but if I have the budget for it, then it's
Go
just
that route.
Yeah, hands down easier solution. And also, I just think the AMBEO is just better. It's.
Do you think it's clearer?
Oh, 100%.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, one of the things that you pointed out earlier in the review is as far as intelligibility, and you mentioned that the Samsung, while it was intelligible, the AMBEO and LG are both more clear, and I 100% agree. Now, I do suffer from some high frequency hearing loss.
Yeah.
I was brutal to my hearing growing up and in my, early 20s. So if you're watching this review, if I can impart any sort of wisdom to you guys, especially if you are still in your 20s, take care of your hearing.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times my grandfather told me I was going to go deaf, and sure enough,
He was right.
he was right. So I do tend to like things with a
You like a little bit more top end energy.
because I need it.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not deaf, but it does help me. So now, in that respect,
Yeah.
I had a harder time watching movies and getting a clear dialogue, understanding what was being said
Right,
exactly
right.
through the Samsung. Whereas with the AMBEO, I have zero trouble, and I don't remember having as much trouble with the LG.
Well, I think the one thing that first of all, the AMBEO and the LG, it comes down to that customizable thing. It really is. The Samsung is so evenly balanced. I love that. I love that it does sound like one giant consistent wall of sound. It's very, very nicely appointed, but nothing is also allowed to really kind of stand out, especially in the adaptive sound kind of thing. Whereas the AMBEO and the LG, you can kind of Burger King both of those sound bars and have it your way. And it's not so much that you know better than a sound designer or anything, but yeah, if you have some of that high frequency hearing loss, like being able to take the center drivers and dial them up +2, +3, or the treble in just those drivers where dialogue is going to be focused, +1, +2, +3, it's a big deal. And that's when I say that there's some customization with the Samsung, but just nowhere near the same with the Sennheiser and the LG. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
It's like,
and in those respects, I think if you're shopping for a soundbar, those are things that you really should ask yourself and figure out who are you and what's going to benefit you the most. Because I know we have a lot of people that watch and they do suffer from high frequency hearing loss, like myself. And I mean, Andrew definitely isn't like me. He's got hearing like, my God, the things that he can hear. It's a bit annoying at times how good his hearing is. But if you are in that that category of people that need that help, then I would probably pass on the Samsung. Yeah. Now, beyond that, the reason why I would choose the AMBEO is just musically, I have yet to hear anything like it. It is the most fun to listen to music through on the AMBEO in terms of soundbars than any other soundbar we've had.
I'll give you that.
I'm really excited to hear what Klipsch comes out with. I think out of everybody in the field, they might be the only brand that I think could potentially knock off the AMBEO. But
with their bigger one.
Yeah, with one of the bigger ones.
You're still going to have the surrounds.
But I don't know. I think musically they'll be able to compete with the AMBEO more than some of the other brands. But I really don't know if there's anything that can beat the AMBEO at this point.
So that's it. That is our review. That is Kristi's hot take. Only thing left is our question of the day, which is, we have reviewed a ton of Dolby Atmos enabled soundbars on this channel. Which one is your favorite? Which one have you heard? Which one do you know to be better? Or which one are you hoping is the best? Let us know down in the comments below. If you like this video, please do give it thumbs up, like, and subscribe. Half of you watching these videos are not yet subscribed. You're gonna wanna be a subscriber, especially in 2021. We got big plans for our subscribers. So subscribe now, get in on it early. You'll thank me. We are still raising money. Yes, we are still raising money. There's still time. We are still raising money for Feeding America. So please donate today. Click donate somewhere on this screen. Give what you can. Every little bit helps people that are just in need of food this holiday season. 100% of your donation goes to helping those people through Feeding America. And so far, I think we are very close to about $4,000 we've raised, maybe over.
Very close to 4,000.
And
had a very generous,
two huge generous donations, and you guys, you always ask about companies doing the right thing. Klipsch and Emotiva have donated big to what we're doing here. I'm not going to put them on the spot and share how much, but that's huge. So thank you to Klipsch, thank you to Emotiva for joining us and trying to help people less fortunate have a meal this holiday season. And join them, join Klipsch, join Emotiva, join us and donate today. Please, it means a lot to both of us. And it means a lot to the people that need something to eat. So give what you can if you can. We really appreciate it. If you use any of the links down in the description below, know that that is a great way that you show your support for this channel and the work that we do here. And Kristi really appreciates it because she works really hard on getting all of that stuff together for you guys to hopefully make your shopping, your information gathering process that much easier. So thank you for using those links. Follow me on Instagram at Recovering Audiophile. And that is it. Another review in the books. It's been a little bit weird and there's been stormy weather here with lots of different things. But anyway, you don't need to know. Remember, the only person that has to like the sound of your system is you. Happy listening, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Really, I mean it. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for everything that you do. And we will see you guys all on the next video. Bye. I saved it. Yeah, you did. I saw you like, oh no. Oh no. He missed the pet part. And in my mind, I'm like, you missed the pet part. And I'm like, watch this. Dismount. Nailed it. Splashless. All right.